Hi, this is Dr. Mark Hitchcock, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Marking the End Times. And what we do on this weekly program is we look at things that are happening in our world today and look at those things in light of Bible prophecy. And today on the program, I want to talk about things that are happening over with Russia and Iran and Turkey. Some of the events that are happening over there with these nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And how these nations aren't just ascending individually, but they're deepening their alliances with one another really in dramatic ways. So that's what I want to spend our time talking about. Then when we go to the subscriber section, I want to answer a really important question. It'll be kind of a follow-up about Ezekiel 38 and 39. There are some people who believe that Ezekiel 38 and 39 is not an end-time event. They think it's something that's happened in the past. So they'll often ask the question, well, how do you explain in Ezekiel 38 how it talks about the weapons that are used being, shields and spears, and they're using swords and riding horses? So I want to talk about that and have us understand what that means in the context, and then answer another question that I'm often asked that's come in, and that is the Antichrist alive today? So in the subscriber section, we'll look at those two questions, and that'll take up the whole time really to answer those two. But what I want to talk about today is what's happening over in Russia today with Ukraine. Here in just a week or so, it's going to be the 1-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And this is going to be a major time period in the next 6 months or so, I believe, in that war. In fact, the CIA director has said the next 6 months really is central to this Ukraine war. Russia, up to now, it's believed they have wounded, dead and wounded of 200,000 killed and wounded. In Ukraine, they believe it's 130,000 civilians and soldiers who have died. So this is a terrible war that just keeps grinding forward. And what I've done, though, in the last couple of months, but also primarily just here in the last week or two, is just been going through and looking at various headlines. Headlines about what's happening with Russia there, obviously in the war in Ukraine, but also looking at what the headlines are saying about Russia and Iran and Turkey, kind of all of these nations. I see this as kind of the end time axis that's going to come against the land of Israel. If you read in Ezekiel 38 verses 1 through 6, there are 10 proper names mentioned there. I've mentioned this to us several times in these programs. You have Gog, who's the leader of this invasion, and then 9 geographical places that are mentioned. And the main predominant ones are Turkey, modern-day Turkey, Russia, and Iran. 4 of the names mentioned there, Meshech, Tubal, Gomer, Togarmah, are all in present-day Turkey. Persia is modern-day Iran. The name was changed in 1935 and then became the Islamic Republic of Iran in the late 70s. And then, of course, Rosh there and possibly Magog, 2 of the other places mentioned, I believe, refer to Russia. So it's fascinating to think about this as we read Ezekiel 38 and 39. The previous chapters, Ezekiel 36 and 37, tell us about an end-time regathering of the nation of Israel back to their land. A massive regathering. They're going to be living prosperously and ultimately peacefully in that land. And a horde of nations is going to attack them in the end. Well, we've been seeing the regathering of Israel now since, at least in earnest, since 1948. That prophecy is being fulfilled before our eyes. And we also see this Gog-Magog coalition coming together before our eyes as well. So let me just go through and mention some of these headlines. Some of these are from a couple months ago, some from 1 month ago. Most of them, though, are just from the last few days, some of them just in the last couple of days. So let me just go through and highlight some of these for us. Foreign policy says this: Iran and Russia are closer than ever before. So Iran and Russia, their relationship is becoming more cozy than it's ever been. And people all over the world are seeing this. And this is setting the stage for this alliance to come together, ultimately to attack Israel in the end times. Reuters, here's a headline from Reuters. Iran and Russia link their banking systems amid Western sanctions. So to try to bypass the crippling sanctions that have been placed by the West on Iran first, and then more recently in Russia because of their war with Ukraine, Iran and Russia have brought together the strong economic ties together and linked their banking systems. So that's an unprecedented move, I think, that's taking place, that's bringing these nations closer together. The Wall Street Journal, this is just from a couple of days ago. Moscow and Tehran advance plans for Iranian-designed drone facility in Russia. So we know that Iran has been sending drones to Russia, but now they're going to actually build a drone facility in Russia. And so it'll be an Iran-designed drone factory, and these drones are planning to be used in the Ukraine war. So there's these plans that have been in the works for a while are being accelerated to build this advanced drone factory. And these are the Iran's Shahed 136 drones that'll be constructed there. NBC News. Russia is providing unprecedented military support to Iran. So Iran's giving Russia these drones. In response to that, Russia is providing unprecedented military support to Iran. This is NBC News. They're giving Sukhoi or selling Sukhoi Su-35 Russian fighter jets to Iran, about 24 of them. Helicopters, air defense systems that are being given to Iran. And in Haaretz, which is an Israeli publication, there's a headline that says this: Zelensky, that's the leader of Ukraine, is warning Israel that Putin will help Iran go nuclear in exchange for drones. So Russia might help Iran in their nuclear program to speed it up even more quickly in exchange for these drones. Another article, another headline, Financial Times. Iran's ghost fleet switches into Russian oil. So Iran has a ghost fleet. It's a fleet of about 16 vessels. It's part of what they call this ghost network that they use to subvert and get around the sanctions. And so these 16 ghost vessels in this ghost fleet are now switching to Russian oil, and they're transporting Russian oil around the world. The Washington Institute has this headline: Deepening Russian-Iranian relations should worry Israel. Again, this just foreshadows what we see in Ezekiel 38 and 39. This deepening relationship should worry Israel. Iran is deepening its ties to Russia really in every way. Here's something from Al Jazeera. Here's a headline: Iran shows off underground air base with Russia's Sukhoi jets. So this new Russian or Iranian underground air base is called Eagle 44. And it's buried hundreds of meters underground in a mountain in Iran. And it was unveiled just after the U.S. and Iran held joint military exercises, the largest joint U.S.-Israeli military exercises in history. It was called Operation Juniper Oak. So right after that ended, Iran now has showed off this underground air base, again with these Russian Sukhoi jets. It's also been reported recently Iran is sending warships to Brazil and the Panama Canal. Again, just to, I think, try to intimidate the United States and try to extend their reach as far as they can. There's a real unholy alliance that's developing between Russia and Iran, but also with Turkey. Turkey's kind of been an outlier in all of this. You know, when you read Ezekiel 38 and 39, we read about Russia, we read about Persia or Iran, and we see these growing ties, but Turkey's part of NATO, and so they've always been kind of the outlier, as one of my friends years ago put it, they're kind of the fly in the ointment in this. But the Jerusalem Post has a recent article that says Russia is still working on historic meeting with Turkey, Iran, and Syria. So Russia's trying to get an agreement or a meeting together with Turkey, Iran, and Syria. It's believed it's going to happen this month because obviously Iranian troops are in Syria, Russian troops are in Syria, Syria borders Turkey, so they all have a profound interest there. Also, Turkey has acquired S-400, the S-400 from Russia. The S-400 is it's called a missile that you can move around. It's a surface-to-air missile that they can use to fire against any attacks that come against them. So Russia has supplied these S-400 missiles to Turkey. Another really interesting thing in all this, I think, is Turkey is a member of NATO. But again, they're kind of this nation that's a little bit on the fringe in NATO. And Sweden and Finland are trying to join NATO. And this is very problematic for Russia because they share a massive border with Finland. Well, they don't want this to happen. So Turkey is blocking the NATO admission for Sweden and Finland, which many believe is playing right into Russia's hands, that Russia's having influence over Turkey in all of this. So I just say all this because, again, we see these individual nations, Russia, Turkey, Iran, and some of these other nations as well in Ezekiel 38, rising kind of on their own. But it's the alliances, I think, between these nations that are really moving things forward. And think about this. The Hebrew prophet Ezekiel predicted all of this 2,600 years ago. Predicted the Jewish people would come back to their homeland in the end times, that they'd be living there, they'd be prosperous, that ultimately, I think, under the agreement with the Antichrist, they'll have peace. When all that comes into place, this coalition of nations of Russia, Iran, and Turkey as the leaders of this, they're all going to come into the land of Israel to try to wipe them off the face of the earth. So these headlines that we just keep seeing are showing how this is all marching forward. There's massive momentum behind it. And this first-year anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, I think, is very significant. This has propelled the stage setting forward, I think, dramatically of what we see. Well, thank you so much for watching. We're going to go now into the subscriber part of our program. So if you're not a subscriber to endtimes.com, you can go to endtimes.com and sign up there for $7 a month. And to become a member and watch this program and many others and the subscriber sections, and also have access to a lot of the archives. So what we're going to do is answer a question that's kind of a follow-up about Ezekiel 38 and the weapons that are used there, and talk about is the Antichrist alive today? So we'll catch you on the other side here in the subscriber portion.